All right, let's get to it, Rob. And Noah Lyles, great sprinter, won the 100, 200, and 4x1 at the World Championships. But right now, more people are talking about him and what he said about the NBA rather than his incredible feat at the World Championships. Here's what Noah said.
You know, the thing that hurts me the most is that I have to watch the NBA Finals and they have world champion on their head. World champion of what? The United States? Don't get me wrong. I love the U.S. at times, but that ain't the world. That is not the world. We are the world. We have almost every country out here fighting, thriving, putting on their flag to show that they are represented. There ain't no flags in the NBA.
And Rod, he said that unsolicited. I think he was asked what they can do to grow track and field. And I don't know if you were going to say technically he's right.
Well, technically he's right. He's talking about semantics. The other thing too, it's just like I that's the first time I heard it. I read it, the comments,
right? But
to actually hear it, are my panties in a bunch? I didn't think he was like, oh no, they're not. They're awful. They're not as good as everybody in the world. That's not. It was just like what he does and his forum, because you could say that about everybody. Is that you don't play. You know, baseball's called Chris.
No,
what?
He's not technically
the World Series. Right, the World Series. And they don't play Japan. They don't play Mexico. They don't play other countries that have baseball, right? We just saw the World Baseball Classic. Japan won, right? So it's not – so it's the same thing. It's named the World Series, but it's played in the United States.
Yeah, right.
Let's hold hands.
He said, we are the world. I like a lot of NBA players got upset. We're gonna hear Rob G read a couple of their comments.
Well,
Rob,
Chris, were you upset? I'm just asking you.
No, I'm gonna share after. Okay. I want to hear just for the context. Right. Tell us what some of the players said.
All right, these are some of the more prominent players. Kevin Durant, quote, somebody help this brother. Bam Adebayo, LOL, is someone gonna tell him? Damian Lillard, the F with the crying, laughing emoji. Draymond, when being smart goes wrong with the facepalm emoji. Udonis Haslem, this was aggressive. Big fan, but go on with that BS, brah. Hashtag sucker-ish.
Here's the thing, though. Whether you agree with Lyles or not, the most idiotic comment was from Aaron Gordon, who said he wanted to race him in the 200 meters.
Okay.
He said, whatever, you know I'm smoking buddy in the 200.
Like, stop
he would beat him by 50 yards.
Dude, I don't care how great of an athlete to disrespect a world-class, right?
Right.
Like, stop.
Exactly.
That's like, that would be like Chris saying he's going to beat you in basketball one-on-one. Just stop.
Right.
Stop.
It don't make sense.
Don't disrespect the athlete like that, thinking that you could get on a track with him. You can't.
Right. Here's what I'll say, Rob. I think when, decades ago, and not even that long ago, when the NBA champion was crowned the world champion, it was certainly beyond legitimate, right? We were clearly the best in the world. No one was close, and our teams were absolutely the best. And yes, you won the NBA championship. You were the best team in the world. I think the World Series is actually, well, let me stick to the NBA for now. The NBA is clearly the best league, and we have not only the best players from America, but the best players from the world, right? Africa, Europe, wherever you like, the best players in the entire world play in the NBA. So we still are clearly, I think it's clearly we're the best league. But I've said in the past few years, Rob, that I wouldn't mind seeing, and I think maybe eventually we will, a legitimate world championship where the champion of all of the elite leagues actually played in a tournament. The Euro League champion, the NBA champion, and so on and so forth. And that would officially determine the world champion. And Rob, while I think we have the best league, do I definitely think we win every year? Not necessarily. And so I think you need to standardize the rules around the world so they're all the same. And then if you want to have a legitimate world championship. But I'll say this, Rob, I think, and I agree, the World Series, similar thing. It was the World Series at the time. We were clearly the best in the world. Now, I actually think we're, even as we're challenged now in basketball by other countries, I think our dominance of basketball is still better or more pronounced than our dominance of baseball. I don't know that I think the MLB is the best league in the world, but there are some real challengers out there. And so it's just, it's what we've done in America. We created these sports. And so for a long time, most countries weren't even competing in them. And then when they did start competing in them, they weren't nearly as good as us. And now they are.
Right.
They're
All
close.
you got to do is look at the NBA and the Dream Team. When they started playing, when the NBA players, and they were winning by 70 points, 60 points, 50 points.
Yep.
It wasn't even competition. It was not. It was almost unwatchable. It was. And that boy has that to change. And that's what happens in time. Same thing. I remember being a kid listening to Mets games, and Chris, at that time, Sadahara was the Japanese home run king, right? And, people were saying, well, he's got all these home runs in Japan, but that's really like a AAA. It's not really major league. Like, they never really gave him full credit that he was a major league player, and he never played in the major leagues. But the Japanese players who have come over, Chris, have been unbelievable. Ichiro and
Shohei.
Right. I mean, we could go. There's a number of them. Hideki Matsui became a star with the Yankees, right? He was a Japanese player. Like, there's a ton. And then we know about Latin America and all the great players who have come from Latin America and all these other stars. So things have definitely changed, and those other countries are damn good.
Would you like to see, in both sports, baseball and basketball, and I think as the world continues to shrink, we may, but would you like to see a legitimate world championship? And I'm not talking about we send our all-star team, or whoever decides to play, and they send theirs. I'm talking about the best team from each league playing in a tournament. Now, it might be hard because of logistics, right? I would not want, Rob, if we're talking basketball, I would not want a one and done, like March Madness style tournament, because that's willy-nilly. And we wouldn't win that every year because anything can happen in one game. But I would want series, but it'd be hard to have, 7-game series when you just look at the time frame. You got to give guys an off season. And baseball, it'd be interesting too. But I would like to see it at some point if you can work it out logistically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I would. Am I dying to see it? No, I'm not dying to see it. If they were to somehow put it together, would it be intriguing to me, like we just saw, Chris, with the World Baseball Classic, right? That's what we saw.
Right.
And it was exciting. You saw it. They sold out the Marlins Park, and people were going crazy. It showed you something, and people took it very seriously.
And Japan won,
Japan won and beat the United States in the finals. You know what I mean? So that was interesting to me. I'm not saying like, I have to have it, and we got to get there. If it was, I would be intrigued to see how that played out.
Do you think the major leagues is the best league in the world? Or I don't know if you would say, if the challenger is Japan or some other country.
Yeah, I still think the major leagues, I think there are more players. I'm not saying that they don't have in Japan, Chris, like, remember, we're plucking the creme de la creme. Everybody over there is not
all of them don't come over.
Everybody's not Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
Everybody's not Ichiro. You know what I mean? Like, the best of the best get to come over. There's a lot of average players over there, just like there are in the major leagues. So I think the major league still probably has more better players, you know what I mean, than Japan.
Right. I would tend to agree. I mean, I don't watch.
No. I don't either. I'm not
could.
trying to, but you know what I mean.
Watch the Japanese
because there would be more then. There would be more, Chris. I mean, they don't make the money that they make here.
Right, and I would love to see it. We've talked about how obviously they're very dominant in the Little League World Series.
Yeah,
so you would imagine.
Even though California walked it off, did you see that?
Yeah,
Chris.
Yeah, that was great for them.
That has to be one of the. Are you? But that kid looked like he was 15. Can I see his birth certificate? Rob G, did you see that kid?
Well, you remember the team from Harlem a few years ago.
Yeah, was that Harlem or Chicago? Chicago.
I think. Well, it might have been both. I thought I remember one. With
I thought it was
Harlem,
from Chicago. But Chris, he's 6'1". That dude, that was unbelievable. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But no, I'm not as offended by, like you said, you even before you heard it.
I wasn't offended, but after I heard it,
I mean, he said it kind of flippantly. You know, I'm not bothered really by it, but it was almost like, wow, like he wasn't asked about that, and he said it really ticks me off. Like,
right.
So it's really it bothers him. So I think that might be what really upset some of the NBA players. But look, I think it's fine what he said. And I ride with the NBA. I think it's the best league in the world. But, we can't deny that the other nations now are close.
And we talked about it with the MVPs, the last 5, not from this country.
Individual
Those are
players.
Right.
Yeah,
those are facts. That's not feelings.
Your turn to weigh in on the world. NBA, you bothered by Noah Lyles' claim that the NBA champion really isn't the world champion. Your thoughts?
All right, let's kick it off with Mark in Sacramento, our guy. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What up, Mark?
What's going on, gentlemen? How you guys doing?
Gentlemen? We doing great, brother. How are you?
Good. You know what? This is a perfect topic for me to touch on because I love both these sports and I still follow track and field. Knowing a lot about Noah Lyles, it's his personality. He overemphasizes everything he says. I think he stuck his foot in some crap, what he said, because at the same time, he's running in the World Championships. So is the United States basketball team playing the best basketball players around the world. So they do it at the same time. I just watched him this morning.
Yeah,
so,
but he said the NBA championship.
Right.
Yeah,
I
get that point.
And these aren't the best players, at least for our country. These aren't our best players.
Right.
I wanted to get to that point is that most of the best players around the world now, they are in the NBA. So they are playing the best players in the world. Like you guys said, the last 5 MVPs are what? International players. And the place to watch is the continent of Africa. That's the place where the NBA is really hot.
Oh,
all right.
No doubt.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Mark. Let's see, Chris. We got another one here. Big Mike in Wichita. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What up, Big Mike?
Hey, I appreciate the line, fellas, Chris and Rob. And I appreciate you guys going back talking about both of you staying with your aunts in L.A. I'm originally an L.A. guy out in Wichita here. And my wife actually was at a funeral this past weekend for Uncle Fluky right there off of Crenshaw and Angela Vista, which is by King Boulevard.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I know that was weird that we both came to L.A., you know what I mean, and both wound up
We
staying.
were living close to each other, too.
And I remember my aunt, she was like, when I told her I got the job at Fox, she was like, why don't you come stay with me until you find a place? And I was like, why not? I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Hey, there is nothing like staying with family and saving some money at the same time, right?
You know it.
Oh, yeah.
I charged her for having me stay there. I'm just saying.
Hey, you better. I hope you did nightly shows for it and practice your
stand up.
comedy.
That's right. All right, what you got?
But she set you off. Hey, a couple. And then one more thing, Chris. You went to Oberlin College, right?
Yep.
Yeah, when I was a kid growing up, I used to think that was the biggest college and everything because my grandparents owned a barber shop and a pool hall right there in the big square. But once I got through high school and was playing football and everything, I was like, oh, no. And they was on the longest losing streak at the time. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Look, we didn't win a ton in basketball, but we won more than the football team.
Wow.
I'll tell you that.
Right.
That's where John Heisman went, though. The Heisman Trophy, who's named after.
Wow. Was he went to Oberlin?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I really appreciate that. But, okay, wonder everybody just would have ignored what Noah said and just took it as, here's a track guy, don't know nothing about nothing else other than that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's the way
does it bother you what he said? I mean, he joked about it, maybe the way he said
it was a
but
joke.
Is it really bothersome to you?
No, it didn't bother me at all because it went in one ear and said, oh, okay. Like, that's his opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't make a difference, just because he won something.
Do you think it makes any sense what he said?
No, because, the NBA is what the NBA is. And whatever you might say about it, that you might not agree about it or whatever, you can't change it,
Right, but I think people think it's just semantics. I mean, what he's saying, Chris, when he talks about, it's not the world champ. It's right. Like when
he is right.
He's right. I mean, semantics
we're not saying
wise,
we don't have the best league.
Right, but he
is right.
He's right. When he races against everybody in the world, Chris, at all time. It's not a United States league or what. It's everybody. The fastest times in the world compete. You do win the world championship.
And the way the NBA players just dismissed him.
Right.
That's kind of like, we're not dominating like that anymore, guys.
Right.
Where you can just, and again, I think we are the best league in the world. I think the NBA champion is the best, team in the world. But we can't act like it be necessarily a given.
This isn't 40 years ago. It just isn't. Rob G, you got something real quick.
Yeah, just a question for you. Following up on what you said, Rob, about how he competes. Do you think the fact that he actually is a world champion and he does compete against other countries, so to him it means more to say world champion than it would like an NFL player might say
I just think so. Like I said before. Yeah, I definitely, because he's beating, like he might have beat a guy from Italy and from, you know what I mean, and from Spain, Chris, in order to win, and that's a world champion.
No, he is absolutely. Look, he has to be. It's like boxing. You don't just beat. You got an American champ, but you got a world champ. You're fighting people all over the world. He's racing against guys from all over the world. Our NBA teams are not. Now, we do have the best players from around the world.
But it ain't this right.
In the NBA. But team-wise, the NBA champion hasn't beat the best team in Europe. It's true.
All right.
I'm not saying we wouldn't, but they haven't. And now the other nations are close enough where you can at least say, maybe they should play. That's all. Doesn't bother me at all, Rob. All right.